Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 3, Drunk in Wild Songs. Chapter 254, Ji Ran. Raindrops pelted the fallen flowers into the mud, then pounded its fragile petals to pieces. The wind swept across the bamboo blinds, causing the scene inside the room to flutter slightly, making it hard to get a clear look within. I went to He province and found the Venerable Master's layman family. They confirmed that after the Venerable Master returned to He province, he was taken away by the Yan clan under the pretext of consulting for an illness. Gu Jin changed his tone. But heaven never leaves one in the lurch. Ji Ran. The hearts of the guards at the door all leaped to their mouth at this utterance of Ji Ran from Gu Jin, but then, he did not continue. Ji Ran? Since what? Li Xiang was in the midst of picking up the candied fruit in the jar to eat when he suddenly saw a smooth egg popping out from the end of the walkway. All wrapped up in a large and roomy monk cassock, that egg lifted two long trails of sleeves and trotted over. As he passed by Li Xiang, he did not forget to cast a glance at the candied fruits, and with this one look, he did not pay attention to where he was going and tripped over himself and fell into the bamboo blinds with a thud. Oops! The sprawling egg lifted his head and said, "Greetings to Second Master." The crowd fixed their eyes on him. It turned out that Ji Ran was a 14 or 15 years old monk, even younger than Ding Tao. Dragging his sleeves, the little monk put his palms together and recited with a solemn and respectful expression, Amitabha. He had a He province accent and could not pronounce the Mi syllable clearly, so it sounded like an Itabha. Second Master, Gu Jin explained. It was precisely because of this lad that the Venerable Master had wanted to return to He province. Ji Ran nodded his head as though that was indeed the case. It's precisely for this humble monk. The Venerable Master was getting up in years and was well aware that he did not have much time left before he would soon leave this world. But Ji Ran was too young, so the Venerable Master headed back to He province and placed him under the care of his distant layman relatives. Unexpectedly, it was at that time that he crossed paths with the Yan clan there. Young Master Yan said that he wanted to bring this humble monk out to play. Blinking his clear and round eyes, Ji Ran continued, this humble monk had to fetch the water. He got impatient waiting and invited Master away first. Xiao Qi noted Ji Ran's young age, and his remaining hope that had just been ignited was thoroughly extinguished. Gu Jin seemed to read what Xiao Qi was thinking and continued. Even though Ji Ran is young, he has acquired the Venerable Master's legacy, and his medical skills are consummate. With him consulting for the prefectural lord, Second Master. Ji Ran shook his head hard. No way. How can the light from a firefly even begin to compare with the brilliance of the moon? This humble monk and Shifu are like the small creek and boundless ocean, there's no comparison. He still had baby fat on his face. Not only did he look innocent, but even his words had an air of naivete. Li Xiang forgot to eat his candied fruit as he tilted his head out from the side of the door with Ding Tao to size up this soft-boiled egg. Gu Jin lifted Ji Ran up by his back collar and said, "Go take a look first." Ji Ran took Shenzhequan's pulse, frowning at times and mumbling to himself at times. Xiao Qi lowered his voice to ask, "How is he?" Ji Ran lowered his gaze to look at Shenzhequan's wrist. After a long time, he replied to Xiao Qi, "His lordship really is fair." There was no trace of probing on Ji Ran's fair, tender face. His compliment of Shenzhequan with those bright, clear eyes of his was just as natural as if he was complimenting a clear spring or a white cloud. Xiao Qi's terrifying possessiveness found no footing on which to flare. His lordship's body is weak due to the adverse effect of the medication he was consuming, but fortunately, he has been meticulously nursed these past 6 months and his primordial qi is still intact. Ji Ran rolled up his sleeves, holding onto his brush as he thought long and hard before writing a prescription down onto the white sheet of paper. Xiao Qi dared not to rest assured just yet, and continued to probe. He just needs to continue with the prescription. Of course not. External injuries are still injuries, no less. His waist was even stabbed. If his lordship happens to fall into a coma or stop breathing temporarily tonight, second master doesn't have to fret. Ji Ran regretfully continued. This humble monk must advise the second master not to allow his lordship to use martial arts again in the future. His lordship's body is simply not suited to use such a forceful and hard-hitting boxing style. He throws a punch out, yes, the other person will hurt, but his lordship will feel the pain, too. It's so not worth it. After he gets through these 2 nights and his fever subsides, he will have to convalesce for quite a number of years. Ji Ran handed the prescription over to Xiao Qi. It is best that his lordship writes with his left hand for the next 6 months. Ji Ran took the opportunity to look at Xiao Qi's palm. He said, even though second master is fit and healthy, you have to remember to rest as well. This injury must not be soaked in water. Xiao Qi asked, how long is a number of years? Ji Ran rubbed his head. I'm not sure myself, but you can't go wrong with convalescing. Xiao Qi tightened his grip on the prescription and looked towards the lowered drapes. Shen Zequin's breathing was even as he lay unconscious. His extended wrist exposed in the slightly dimmed room was just as fair as Ji Ran had said, so fair that it seemed as though he would melt at a single touch. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. In his drowsy state, Shen Zequin had a dream. He dreamed that he stood before the gate of Chu capital at age 15, waiting for his Shifu, Shi Niang, and Ji Mu to take him home. Dressed in the short padded coat that Hua Pingting made, he watched the fine snow stream down along the city walls. Ji Mu leaned over the top of the wall and shouted at him. Chu on air, where are you going? Grasping his new coat, Shen Zequin said in a daze, I'm going home. Ji Mu raised his head and gazed in the direction of Duan province together with him. Then wait for a little longer. Father is about to come. Shen Zequin could not remember why he had to stand here. He waited from dawn till dusk, and even though it was snowing, he felt very warm. Ji Mu rubbed his arms and asked, Gur is a little cold. Want to come up to warm yourself by the fire? Shen Zequin shook his head. I feel very warm. And so Ji Mu started a fire at the top of the city wall. He extended both his hands out for warmth as he chatted with Shen Zequin. When we go back this time, Gur will be able to get married. Mother has been nagging about it for years. They waited for a very long time. Shen Zequin's waist was aching, as were his calves. Every part of him hurt. He wiped his sweat, looking into the horizon ahead throughout. Seeing as the sky had darkened, Ji Mu suddenly murmured, Father isn't coming anymore. His fire burned out. He got up to put on the military coat set at the side and leaned over the top of the wall to flash a grin at Shen Zequin. Chu on air. Shen Zequin raised his head and took a few steps, looking at him. Ji Mu said, Ji's whistle call is sounding. I can't wait anymore. I have to go. Shen Zequin nodded, already accustomed to it. Then go. I'll tell Shi Niang. Ji Mu revealed a troubled expression, as if he was having a headache, and said with a sigh, Ji's worried. You. I'll walk back from here. Shen Zequin raised a finger and pointed into the distance. It's nearby. Ji Mu looked at Shen Zequin, the expression in his eyes gentle. What am I to do about my little brother? Shen Zequin heard the sound of hooves and leaped a little as he yelled, Ji, Shifu is here. Ji Mu said nothing and merely remained that way with his head propped in his hands as he smiled. Shen Zequin turned his head and saw a gerfalcon with its wings spread flying out from the horizon, followed by a galloping horse that was black all over with a patch of white on its front chest. He stopped in his tracks and watched that horse running over to him. Sitting on the back of the horse was a youth wearing a helmet. The gerfalcon landed on his shoulder. He removed his helmet, revealing his rather displeased face, and bent over to scrutinize Shen Zequin. What are you standing there for? Get on the horse. Second young master will take you away. Shenzequan ignored him, so he dismounted his horse, knocked his helmet on Shenzequan's head, and hoisted up Shenzequan. "Ah," Shenzequan said, smothered in the helmet. "I want to go home." Xiao Qiye flicked a finger at Shenzequan, unreasonably impervious to reason. "You're leaving with me." He walked a few steps, then asked, as if angry, "Don't you recognize me?" "I don't," Shenzequan answered. Xiao Qiye made to toss Shenzequan into the snow. He threw Shenzequan up, and when Shenzequan panicked, caught him again with steady hands. The gerfalcon landed on his shoulder, and he burst out laughing as he looked at Shenzequan. Shenzequan lifted the helmet and looked at him, baffled. The originally darkening sky abruptly lit up. Wind tousled Xiao Qiye's hair, and the surrounding wall that blocked his line of sight all disappeared to reveal a boundless expanse of grassland paved beneath his feet. It was in this way he hugged Shenzequan and greedily stroked Shenzequan's cheek. "I want to hide you away," Xiao Qiye said aloud in the wind, "or perhaps put you into the pocket in my bosom." Shenzequan could not hear him clearly. He tilted his head up and asked, "What did you say?" Xiao Qiye looked at him and kissed him hard on the cheek. "I said you're really good looking," he answered. "Too damn good looking. No one will ever surpass you in looks, I swear." Shenzequan covered his cheek and replied loudly, "You're lying." Paying no heed to his struggle, Xiao Qiye hugged him tight and said in his ear, "My bad." The wind stopped, and Xiao Qiye swiftly grew up. His broad shoulders blocked out the light as he embraced Shenzequan, looking as if he had just woken up, and at the same time, still in dreamland. His unraveled hair weaved together with Shenzequan's, spreading out among the bedding. A tiny little braid lay across in the middle. Shenzequan opened his bleary eyes and zoned out for a while. Tiredly, he said, "It's all bound together." Xiao Qiye lifted the little braid with his long finger. As they say, they who bind their hair together become husband and wife. Shenzequan had only just woken up and he was still coming around and getting his bearings. Xiao Qiye rubbed his back for him and said, "Time to get up." He rubbed Shenzequan until Shenzequan turned slightly aside and was now lying on Xiao Qiye's chest. Xiao Qiye had calluses on his hands, and his rubs felt very comfortable. Shenzequan's eyes were almost about to narrow. Still, he did not forget to say angrily to Xiao Qiye, "You're so noisy." Xiao Qiye nuzzled him hard with his stub-bled chin and said, "You're going to be the death of me, Shen Lanzhou." Shenzequan poked Xiao Qiye's cheek with his right hand that had been wrapped into a dumpling. Very naturally, both of them shared a tired, listless kiss. The spell of rain over several days came to a cease, and sunny days took over in Duan province. Jiran might have been a very modest one, but 3 days later, Shenzequan was able to consume kanji on schedule. The little monk stood by the window, piously reciting an Itab Ha. When Xiao Qiye asked what he wanted as a reward, he pointed to Li Xiong's candy jar without hesitation. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief and handed the candy jar over to him before Li Xiong could protest. ******. The window in the room was opened. Shenzequan rested against the back cushion and listened to Fei Sheng finish his report. If they were spies, there was indeed no need for them to leave such obvious tattoos on their bodies. Shenzequan held the report Yuan Zhou wrote in his left hand. It covered all the important matters these few days which the advisors were in no position to take the decision into their own hands. "You mean, the reason they still had the lizard tattoo on them was to distinguish themselves from the ordinary scorpions. The lizards all belonged under Amuer, and they pride themselves on being a branch of the Hanshi tribe," Jiao Tianya said. Zwilai has to step onto the battlefield, so it's not surprising for him to have the tattoo, but the only possibility for infiltrating lizards to still have their tattoos could only be that they are worried about getting confused by others. "What did Yijing say?" Xiao Qiye asked. "The household registrations the assassins used are legitimate. There are indeed these 2 people in Fan province, but it's very likely that they have been replaced, Fei Sheng said. After all, we only know their names but not their appearances. That can't be helped, Kong Ling said in a steady voice. The census register has to be filled in and reported every year. Even if the various prefectural yamen take down their portraits during the verification process, they can't be kept for long. But Jiao Tianya was right in his conjecture. Why did the infiltrating lizards need to have tattoos on them? That way, there would be no escape for them once they were found out. Amuer treated them as his own private soldiers. Even Zwilai was loaned to Hassan, which showed just how highly Amuer regarded these lizards. If it was really to differentiate themselves from the scorpions, then it had to do with the scorpions who roamed Zongbo's territories all year round. Duan province isn't close to Getal and it's even further away from Amuer. Even the fastest horses can't get the news there instantly. Xiao Qiye knew the military map to the east like the back of his hand. Even Hassan's Saker falcons didn't manage to fly back. These two lizards were not sent by Amuer. Amuer's deployment of troops was his contingency plan for the worst-case scenario where Chizuyan attacked Getal and Hassan did not return to provide reinforcements. His confirmation of Hassan's death could only happen within these 2 days. This was because the Hashi River was not easy to cross, so he had no way of giving orders to the lizards a few days prior. There was simply no time. Understanding flashed across Yao Wenyu's expression. Since the lizards are Amuer's private soldiers, they would not easily heed the deployment commands of another person. If Amuer was not the one who gave them the order to assassinate, then the only possibility left is that someone gave them the orders under Amuer's name. Fei Sheng furrowed his brows. If so, that means there is still a scorpion or a lizard by our side, and he knows the movements in Duan province. Always the one who would immediately get nervous, Gao Zhongxiang said, then isn't that terrible? This person is very familiar with matters concerning Zongbo. If these lizards were long-time residents in the territory, then even if they had proof of household registration, they would also have been recorded down in the book due to their tattoo, Jiao Tianya said, which means they have only just sneaked their way in. The Yaman's checks are so strict, Kong Ling said. It's too hard for them to sneak into the city unnoticed. They have to be able to evade the guards' inspections. Then there's really a place where they can do that. Chen Yang bowed slightly to the prefectural lord. The scorpions of Tse province are not subjected to questioning within the territory. They can move freely following Haragu. Haragu's scorpions originally could only stay at the Biwan hunting grounds under the strict watch of the garrison troops. It was only until they rendered meritorious services at the Hashi sinkhole accompanying the Libe armored cavalry that Zongbo undid their shackles. If the lizards were with him, then the issue about the tattoo would make sense. Fei Sheng promptly said, Haragu's negotiation with the Qiang tribe did not work out too. Master, why not I? What's the hurry? With the Qiang tribe retreating in defeat, the Qingsha tribe's territory has been completely vacated. Shenzequan set down the report and said to Xiao Qiye, let's give this piece of land to Haragu. Xiao Qiye lifted his brows slightly. Haragu signed an oath of alliance with the Qiang tribe on my behalf, but the Qiang tribe reneged on the agreement. An undercurrent of ruthlessness coursed through Shenzequan's tired eyes. There is a price to be paid for betrayal. Let Haragu collect this debt on my behalf. The reason Haragu wanted to instigate the lizards hiding in his own nest of scorpions was to ignite the flames of war as soon as possible. He wanted lands, and just like Dalantai, they all seemed to be wavering, but in truth, they were all working for their own benefits. Xiao Qiye killed Achi over at the Hashi sinkhole, so the Biancha scorpions were now without a leader, and Haragu had no more rival to vie with him. If he returned to the desert at this time, he would be the one and only leader of the remaining scorpions. He even dared to do Yanhiru's business, so he could also turn around and work with Amuer again owing to the change in the situation. If Shenzequan killed off Haragu, he would merely be killing off an exposed scorpion. Amuer had no lack of this kind of scorpions, so Shenzhequan would not only spare Harigu but also give Harigu the land he yearned for so much. He wanted Harigu to stand here and firmly occupy the Zongbo battlefield, controlling the flow of scorpions, thereby becoming the thorn in Amuir's side. But at the same time, Shenzhequan also wanted to teach Harigu a hard lesson. If Harigu wanted that piece of Qingsha tribe's land, he had to first go and deal with the Qiang tribe. As long as he did so, the 12 tribes would no longer accept him easily, and Amuir would no longer trust him. He would also have to shoulder the Qiang's tribe's hatred, for he was the blade-wielding executioner who carried out the punishment. The prefectural lord wanted to use his resources to the fullest. Shenzhequan grew tired from sitting, and as the others were about to retreat, he said, "There's no hurry for you Zhou to retire for a rest upon heading back. Jiran will be going over in a while to take a look at you." Jiran was still a child at heart, jumping across water puddles as he followed after Gujin. Seeing his smooth, bald head reflected in the water, he could not help but double up with laughter. Qiao Tianya met them at the entrance. Putting his palms together too, he said to Jiran, "Little master, please enter." Jiran returned the greeting. At this time, the birds were chirping among the trees, and the weather was pleasantly warm. Dressed in monk robes, he stood in the water puddles of varying sizes that reflected the blue sky and white clouds, a sight that so entranced one it was hard to distinguish between heaven and earth. "Benefactor," Jiran imitated his Shifu's example and nodded slowly to Qiao Tianya. "You have an affinity with Buddha." Qiao Tianya found it interesting and said, "When I was young, there was a monk who said the same thing to me too. But then, to date, I still have yet to renounce the world and become a monk." Jiran looked at Qiao Tianya. When he was quiet, he had a kind of otherworldly aura. However, that was not the so-called detachment far removed from the mundane world, but a natural transcendence. Such was this little monk, pure and untainted, observing the secular world with his own pair of eyes. Worry-free are the clear waters, that creased in a frown because of the wind, ageless are the emerald hills, that sport a crown of white because of the snow. Benefactor's cause already exists, so would the catalyst still be far along. The refreshing breeze blew up Jiran's monk robe, and the hem of his clothes drooped into the water. He clapped his palms gently, looking in all seriousness in his naivete, as if already certain of Qiao Tianya's future path. Qiao Tianya heard the wind chimes under the eaves swaying in the breeze. He turned his head and saw Yao Wenyu sitting there. Yao Wenyu's sleeves instantly swayed with the wind. Unexpectedly enough, he gave off the same vibe as Jiran strolling among the white clouds in the water puddles. Jiran walked to the front of the steps but did not bow to Yao Wenyu. Under the tinkling of the wind chimes, he scrutinized Yao Wenyu. Eventually, he shook his head. "I can't heal your legs. Even if my Shifu were alive, he wouldn't be able to heal your legs either." Yao Wenyu covered Hanu on his lap with his fingers. "All conditioned phenomena are like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, a shadow, like the dew and a flash of lightning. And thus, it is so we shall perceive them." The confluence of causes and effect of this world was in a constant flux of change. Yao Wenyu was no longer obsessing over this pair of legs. Long when he answered, "I'm still standing," he had already extricated himself from it all. It made no difference whether he stood or sat. He was still himself. He was him. Jiran sighed. "Others want me to speak of the sayings of Buddha, yet you speak of them to me. Existing in the existential view of your own mortality, you've seen the end, so why stop and linger here? Come with me to the mountains." Yao Wenyu said, "I still have the forms of all things in my heart." Looking at Yao Wenyu, Jiran raised a finger to point at Qiao Tianya. "You also have the form of him in your heart." The wind blew against Yao Wenyu's sleeves, and the red thread on his wrist slid gently. He said, "That is why I'm still an ordinary mortal. The chain of cause and effect, of predestined relationships, was beyond intriguing. When exactly was its wheel set into motion? Perhaps it was that night when the red thread was bound, or perhaps it was that one utterance of "I hate you" to the core, or perhaps even earlier, during the third month when spring was budding in the air. Qiao Tianya, Qiao Sanjiao, he was the swallow that left his mark. Yao Wenyu understood that all that existed in the world was but mere illusions. Everything he did today was like the snap of the finger that would swiftly vanish into the long, never-ending river. Yao Wenyu, Yao Yuanzhou, he was the leaf that turned to mud. I have nothing to give to you. Ji Ran tilted his head slightly. Yao Wenyu looked at Shenzequan's courtyard and smiled. You have already given me what I want. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. The yellow sand of the Bianjun commandery brushed past the military banner, sending it fluttering. Qi Zuyan removed her helmet. Her mouth was all mixed with gravel and grit. Qi Wei handed her a handkerchief. She could not strip off her armor and wipe herself down as the male generals did, so she could only bear the scorching heat and wipe her face with restraint. Duan province has sent several military reports, Qi Wei said. The report from the battle zone is here, too. The one from the battle zone is from Lu Guangbai. What else can it be but the retreat of the Biancha cavalry soldiers? Qi Zuyan set down Zuju and moved behind the wall to cool off. Duan province is from Xiao Qi yet. Go ahead and read it out. Only then did Qi Wei open the private letter and read it out to Qi Zuyan. Qi Zuyan's hands, which had initially been folding the handkerchief, paused. She looked at Qi Wei and repeated, "Give the Qingsha tribe's territory to the Scorpions." Qi Wei carefully looked it over again and ensured there was no mistake before he nodded. That bit of nonchalance Qi Zuyan had gradually ebbed away. The armor on her shoulders was already considered light, but wear it for a long time, and it would still be heavy enough to make the shoulders sore. "Get a brush," she said, "and reply to Xiao Qi Ye now." I do not agree. The Qingsha tribe was taken down and captured by the Qidong garrison troops. Qi Zuyan had no use for this place, so she could give it to Libei or Zongbo, but she had no wish to hand it over to the Scorpions. What did Harago's occupation of the Qingsha tribe's territory imply? It implied that there would be the Scorpions keeping watch at her door from then on, one who could turn around and bite them back anytime. It was exactly as Xiao Qi Ye expected when he received Qi Zuyan's reply. He pillowed his head on his arms and said to Shenzequan beside him, "Qidong's terrains are what give it an advantage. Expanding eastward would weaken the importance of the Bianjun commandery. The two door shutters that are Tianfei Watchtower and Suotian Pass would also lose their purpose. It's tough to get Commander-in-Chief Qi's nod regarding this matter." Shenzequan was already about to fall asleep. Libei is willing to establish a relationship of subordination with the Huiyan tribe, and the armored cavalry subsequently receives the perks that trading with tea brought them. To Qidong, the advantage of increasing the territory outward from the Bianjun commandery will far outweigh the disadvantages. It will also reduce the burden of military expenses placed on Commander-in-Chief Qi in the future. More than half of the tea the traveling merchants sold at the harbor from the mutual trade market came from the Huiyan tribe. Shenzequan gave all this sum of money back to the Libei armored cavalry. It had to be known that the speed at which the armored cavalry depleted their equipment could be said to be ranked first in the world. Thinking to this point, Shenzequan's drowsiness eased. He could not turn over as he pleased, so all he could do was to lean back like Xiao Qi Ye was doing as he continued, "The war can last a lifetime, then what about the next life?" "Next life," Xiao Qi Ye covered his face with the letter and sighed. "I'd still want to be born in Libei." As both of them lay, Ding Tao and Li Xiong smashed walnuts in the walkway with Ji Ran, the boys laughing merrily as they did so. Insects chirped up a ruckus under the blazing sun, one sound after another. Amuer spent his whole life attempting in vain to unify the 12 tribes. After a while, Xiao Qi Ye said, "My father thought he could become the great ruler. You don't understand the reason why Amuer didn't become the great ruler of the desert." Shenzequan turned his head to the side. I can tell you on the sly. Xiao Qiye took away the letter and turned it aside. It was so warm he was feeling lazy. All he said was, because Libe has Xiao Xian. Shenzequan raised his eyes and gazed at him. You want to cross the river and advance eastward to go looking for Amu'er. Xiao Qiye suddenly covered Shenzequan's eyes. The weather was so hot. He inched closer and whispered back, my wife does understand me so. The corners of Shenzequan's lips curved up slightly with a little smugness. Xiao Qiye loved looking at Shenzequan this way. Lowering his eyes, he could not help but kiss him. End chapter. Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 3, Drunk in Wild Songs. Chapter 255, Qingshan. The gardens in Chu capital were all a lush shade of emerald green. Potted plants decorated both sides of Mingli Hall's open space. The eunuchs carried basins filled to the brim with ice pieces and placed them in all corners of the hall to dispel the heat. Meanwhile, the court officials under the eaves waiting for themselves to be summoned were all so hot that they were sweating, yet they could not breach decorum, and so could only force themselves to endure it and let their sweat soak through their robes. The bamboo blinds to Mingli Hall lifted, and Feng Quan, with a horsetail whisk in hand, walked out and bowed in greeting to the ministers. Softly, he said, the sweltering heat is unbearable, and it has been hard on the various excellencies attending to official duties. Her Highness has specially instructed this humble slave to prepare green bean soup. The junior eunuchs swiftly came carrying the bowls of soup. The napkin flowers had all been prepared in advance. Feng Quan bowed once more and retreated into Mingli Hall. Her Highness shows such consideration to us humble ones. An official who had come from a local region said as he sipped the soup, and for that, we are truly grateful. Soup spoons knocked lightly against porcelain bowls. An official from the capital asked Zhang Qingshan, who was at the side, is Wan Xiao used to staying at the relay station? Zhang Qingshan finished his soup and gave a slight nod of his head. He seemed rather at odds with his swift and resolute reputation that was the stuff of rumors. His manner was tepid and lukewarm, as if he was also very perfunctory and not that attentive when it came to other matters. After an hour, a eunuch called out his name, and Zhang Qingshan lifted the hem of his robe and entered the hall, where he kneeled and bowed to pay his respect. This humble subject is the Provincial Administration Commissioner of Juexi, Zhang Qingshan, pays his respects to your highness. Wan Xiao, please rise, Li Jianting said. The weather is hot today, and I've made you stand outside long enough. The Grand Secretary and I were just discussing Juexi's governmental affairs, and I saw from your memorial that Yang City has gone without rain for more than a month. The local granaries are in short supply, so you wish to borrow grains from Hubei province. The grains requisitioned by the imperial court last year were borne by Juexi. The 13 cities' granaries are already depleted. Zhang Qingshan did not raise his head. I never expected a drought to hit. Kong Qiu said to Li Jianting from the side, Yang City also housed the granary of the southwest. If this drought is severe, I fear it would be hard to sustain it just by depending on Wan Xiao to borrow grains. It's still necessary to rely on the imperial court to transfer the aid relief grains down. The Huadian on Li Jianting's forehead was brilliant red. She pondered it for a moment, then said, during the reign of Xiand, you offended the local merchants in order to provide relief to the disaster victims, causing them to crowd the yamen to make things difficult for you. This year, you are negotiating with Hubei province with every means possible for the sake of borrowing grains. It has been hard on you. Yang City being hit by disaster is no small matter, but there is no need to worry either. The Grand Secretary and I will give you a solution as soon as possible. The grains will definitely be transferred. Zhang Qingshan was already used to hearing words of excuses whenever he entered the capital. Even the former Emperor Tianchen and Emperor Xian did not possess such a decisive and straightforward attitude. Thus, upon hearing Li Jianting saying so, he could not help but put on a solemn countenance and kowtow to pay his obeisances. This humble subject knows that the imperial court also has to give consideration to the war in Qidong this year. The military provisions have priority. Juexi is willing to use natural silk to offset the debt and exchange it for food with Hubei province. Kong Qiu lost a little of his temper when this was brought up. The official transfer of public grains can be implemented right after Her Highness endorses it. Why must the prefectural prefect of Hubei province, Tao Ming, defy the edict? Hubei province had excess harvest last year. According to the memorial Tao Ming, presented at the beginning of the year, he can afford to give relief grains. The imperial edict was issued several days ago, Li Jianting said. Feng Quan, go out there and ask if the prefectural prefect of Hubei province Tao Ming has arrived. If so, summon him into the hall to give us an explanation. Before Feng Quan had even stepped out of the hall, Fu Man anxiously came to the door and said, Your Highness, a letter arrived from the postal relay station, saying that the prefectural prefect of Hubei province Tao Ming has fled with his entire family. Li Jianting was taken aback. Where did he flee to? The imperial court is summoning him over for a discussion. Why did he flee? Fu Man stomped his leg lightly. He defected to Shenzhequan of Zhongbo. Murmurs of discussions promptly filled the hall. Chen Zhen frowned. Borrowing grains is a commonplace matter. Why did he run? There has to be a reason. Your Highness is not aware, but, Fu Man said with urgency, the official who went to summon him opened up the granary in Hubei province and found that there was not much grain left. It's not enough to serve as relief grains. Tao Ming acted in collusion with Shenzhequan and sold all the grains to Tse province a long time back. The moment he heard that Juexi wanted to borrow grains, he was so frightened that he fled on the very same night. An uproar broke out in the hall. Sen Yu stood up. Why didn't the local investigating censor say a word? Hubei province had no grains, and He province's granary was empty, too. They could not count on the 8 great cities either. Then, what were they to do about Yang City? In the end, Juexi still had to tighten their belt to save up the money by the skin of their teeth. The atmosphere in the hall abruptly plummeted. Air so chilly pervaded the hall from the ice basins in the 4 corners that Kong Qiu felt a sharp pain in the middle of his back. Covering his nose and mouth, he coughed for a moment, then stood up when his coughing subsided and bowed to Li Jianting. Disaster relief is of top priority and cannot be delayed. The monthly salaries of the officials in the capital can be reduced accordingly. This humble subject shall start the proceedings. We must not let the commoners starve to death. The officials in the outer area all looked at each other, then kneeled and echoed, We humble subjects are willing to do so. We ask of your Highness to agree to it. The cicadas among the trees were pried off by the eunuchs. Li Jianting rose to her feet too, and in that brief silence, lamented, How can I stop all of you when you are going to such an extent? Since it's for the sake of Yang City's common folks, the palace should also appropriately cut its spending. Wan Xiao, you are the one who asks for the grains, so you shall be the one to make arrangements for the aid relief. Zhang Qingshan kowtowed and said his thanks. At night, flower lanterns and sheer gauze curtains decorated the courtyard, where a spread of dishes and chopsticks had been laid out. Only Yair was waiting in attendance at the side. Shui Ziozhuo, dressed in his regular clothes, poured tea for Zhang Qingshan. Apologies for being the poor host by having you come to my residence. Zhang Qingshan took the tea and said with a sigh, There have been so many social engagements since my entry into the capital. All those delicacies cannot compare to your homely fare. The life of the poor. Shui Ziozhuo set down the teapot and in a rare moment, teased, Which provincial governor is like you? You don't even use a decent horse carriage when you venture out. I am truly poor, while you are a false poor, Zhang Qingshan said, but we are two of a kind who reek of poverty from head to toe. Both men clinked their teacup and burst into laughter. I can see that the heir apparent is intelligent. She treats those under her with decency, and she is straightforward in her handling of matters. She takes after the style of Emperor Guangcheng. Jiang Qingshan picked up the chopsticks and ate the bean curd with shallot. It's just that she's rather a tad prim and proper, and her manner of speaking is too mature. She had a rough time in her youth, so naturally, she's unlike the average girl. Xue Xiaozuo watched Jiang Qingshan eat his meal. I saw your letter at the beginning of the year. Lady Lu is pregnant. Jiang Qingshan slowed down his speed of swallowing and cast a glance at Xue Xiaozuo. His smile faded as he replied, the usual. So, Xue Xiaozuo did not probe further. Jiang Qingshan had a wife but no children. His wife was from the Lu clan in the prefecture of Bama province, and it was not really considered a rich household. She was on good terms with Jiang Qingshan, but to date, both of them had still yet to beget a child. Lady Lu was in poor health. Their firstborn was conceived during the 4th year of Xiand, when Jiang Qingshan was running all over outside to borrow grains. The merchants who came to their doorstep to demand repayments gave Lady Lu such a fright that she miscarried. After that, it had been hard for her to conceive again. Why are you so dejected? Jiang Qingshan set down his chopsticks. If I'm destined to have no son, then so be it. I won't force it. As he spoke, he looked to the cluster of flowers at the side, pausing for a moment. It's just that my mother has been pushing us pretty hard, and it's inevitable that she treats Lady Lu rather, alas. Jiang Qingshan's mother, in her anxiousness to gain a grandson, was rather harsh on her daughter-in-law. My mother is advanced in age, and she's strong-minded by nature. It has been aggravating for Lady Lu to be attending to her. I've been busy with government affairs all these years and neglected domestic affairs. In the end, I've failed to live up to the vow I made to her back then. Jiang Qingshan always felt emotional whenever his family affairs were mentioned. At the beginning of the year, my mother had some distant niece stay over at our residence, saying that it was only for the time being, but even until now, she's still there. Several times I went back to see Lady Lu standing primly under the eaves, and yet my mother still wants to match-make me with that woman. If you're unwilling, it'd be better to turn it down outright. Xue Xiaozuo poured more tea for him, lest the old madam thinks it's feasible and it ends up breaking Lady Liu's heart. Jiang Qingshan stayed Xue Xiaozuo's hand. Let's have wine instead. I still have to attend to official duties tomorrow morning. As Xue Xiaozuo spoke, he looked at Yair and motioned for him to get the wine. You live alone in this residence. It's so empty. Jiang Qingshan raised an arm and waved it. It's time for you to settle down with someone, too. Han Cheng has only just been eliminated, and the investigation of the field taxes has yet to conclude. Xue Xiaozuo took over the wine and poured only for Jiang Qingshan. If I marry a wife, I'd be leaving her alone in this empty residence, where she'd be wasting away her youth. Why sin thus? There is no end to official business, Jiang Qingshan said. Don't tell me you're going to carry on like this until you grow old and die. Xue Xiaozuo nodded in all seriousness and started to discuss official matters. The drought in Yang City is not as serious compared to the one during the reign of Xiand, but it has already put you in a terrible fix. Chu capital's reduction of salaries alone is useless if this rain still doesn't fall after the 7th month, or if a drought hits the rest of the 12 cities. There will still be fatal casualties in Juexi. Jiang Qingshan sipped the wine. The Grand Secretariat is willing in spirit but lacking in power. If there is really a surplus of grains, the Grand Secretary will not make such an unwise move. I've been meaning to ask you too. Are the 8 cities' granaries really empty? Yes. The grains confiscated from the Pan clan of Dan City, Xue Xiaozuo raised a hand and pointed to the side, are not even enough to feed the people in this palace. We used to lack money in the past. Jiang Qingshan shook his head. And now, we lack grains. If we had been able to issue the personnel transfer order earlier to reorganize the 6 prefectures of Zongbo and recover the vast expanse of fertile lands, Shenzhequan would not have gone on to become the local overlord, and Great Zhou would not be in the predicament it is in today. Xue Zaiozhuo said at a slow pace, the most abundant granaries in the world are now in Zongbo. If the drought in Juexi worsens after the 7th month, I'll have to consider buying grains from Shenzhequan. I fear that it will be difficult, Jiang Qingshan said. Who would have imagined that the 8th son of the Shen family would be able to bring the 6 prefectures under his control? The battle in Duan province won him the hearts of the people. This man bears grudges. He will not sell grains to you that easily. Xue Zaiozhuo set the wine jar to the side. If he wants to walk among the world in the name of benevolence and righteousness, he cannot simply sit back and watch the drought-ravaged Juexi. They discussed some more official business. When it was almost time, Xue Zaiozhuo had Yair help Jiang Qingshan back to rest. As Jiang Qingshan was leaving, he pointed at the front hall and said, "I met your eldest brother when I arrived at the relay station. He went there to give offerings to Qinzi. I see that he has been promoted, presumably benefiting from his association with you. Yanking, he used to make things difficult for you in all kinds of ways possible because he shares the same family name as you. In the end, he still has to survive relying on his connection with you, yet he's not even willing to say a good word about you." Jiang Qingshan was a little drunk, and was a little unsteady on his feet. "Seeing how smug he is, I fear that he will implicate you in the future. You should watch out for him." Xue Zaiozhuo responded in acknowledgement. Ji Qingqing stepped on a stool and shook out the dice as if he was performing magic tricks and said, "My lord, you lost." Young Master Xue drank until his face was all flushed. He touched his pocket and said, "Oh dear me, I forgot to bring my money pouch before I left home." "Qingqing, put it on the account." Ji Qingqing blew on the dice and looked at this eldest son of the Xue family, saying with a laugh, "My lord, why stand on ceremony with me? It ought to be on my account to begin with. Is the scented tea sent to your residences a few days ago still acceptable? The goods from Qin province have also just arrived recently. If there's anything you have your eyes on, don't hesitate to let me know." "No, no, that won't do." Although that was what young Master Xue said, he still sat to the side and lit up the pipe. "My residence has everything and does not lack small playthings like this. It's just that the Ministry of Personnel wants to swap around the assignments in the Imperial Court of late, and going by what the Gong said, there's a lucrative post." Ji Qingqing shifted his feet and sat down beside young Master Xue. "Then our lord is going to receive a promotion. Congratulations. But the Gong in this palace all serve the emperor. They have seen a lot and so they turn their noses up at common objects." Young Master Xue appeared somewhat hesitant. "Do you have any imported merchandise?" "Yes, I do. Lots of them. I'll get Xiao Wu to bring the book over later for you to look over and choose." Ji Qingqing leaned closer. "Whatever you choose, I'll give it to you. No need to stand on ceremony. You're truly a good friend of mine." The eldest son of the Xue family promptly burst into laughter. He pointed at Ji Qingqing. "If this official post really falls into my hands, I'll make sure to return you double the gift in the future." When Ji Qingqing threw the dice, he knocked against the low table at the side, seemingly by accident. The Jin Yue at the side disguised as a servant gave a slight nod of his head and prepared the stuff for young Master Xue, even remembering to lay out a layer of gold underneath. It grew even later outside, but young Master Xue had long since been having such a good time that he did not even notice it. End chapter.